Hello students and welcome to the study portal. Here we are with one more video. The topic of today's video is tissues. In today's video, we will understand what is tissue, the four main types of tissue, the functions of each tissue type, and will relate the structure of each tissue type to their function. We will also discuss the embryonic origin of the tissue and the main types of tissue membrane. At the end of this video, you will be able to understand the thorough knowledge of tissues and will be able to implement this in your life. So, without delay, let's start the video. So, the first question here arises is, what is actually tissue? So, the term tissue is used to describe a group of cells found together in the body. Basically saying, tissues can be described as a group of similar cells that perform a specific function. So, we can say that the tissue is a group of similar cells that perform specific function. Alright, so now let's just understand what are cells. So cells are body's smallest functional unit. So when these cells group together, let's understand the structural level of organization. Cell is the basic fundamental unit of the body. It is the smallest unit of the body that has a function. Then a group of cells, the cells accumulate and form a group and they are then called as tissues. Alright, then tissues group and they form organ. Then group of organ is termed as organ system. Then this group of organ system form an organism or human body. Alright, so this is the level of structural organization in human beings. Now talking about tissues again. So the cells within a tissue share a common embryonic origin. Microscopic observation reveals that cells in a tissue share morphological features and are arranged in an orderly pattern that achieve the tissue's function. Talking about the evolutionary perspective, tissues appear in more complex organisms. For example, multicellular protists, ancient eukaryotes, they do not have cells organized into tissues. But the complex organisms like animals and human beings have tissues organized into their body. Alright. Now talking about the types of tissue. Commonly, there are four types of tissue as you can see on your screen. The first one is the connective tissue. Second is the epithelial tissue. Third one is the muscles tissue or muscular tissue. And the fourth one is the nervous tissue. These are the most common types of tissues. You can also observe the pictures of these kind of tissues, that how these tissues are arranged in our body. Alright. So, a disruption of the structure is a sign of injury or disease. Such changes can be detected through histology. The microscopic study of tissue, its appearance, organization and function is called as histology. This is to note down here. Alright, moving on. Now talking about the connective tissues, that what are connective tissue. So connective tissue is made up of cells, fibers and a gel-like substance. Alright, as the name implies, it binds the cells and organs of the body together and functions in the protection, support and integration of all parts of the body. Alright, it is found between other tissues everywhere in the body, including the nervous system. Alright, what is the function of connective tissue? Connective tissue binds the body parts or the organs of the body together and functions in the protection, providing support to other tissues and organs in the body, and integration of the body parts. Here you can see the example of connective tissue is areolar tissue. It is made up of collagen fibers, yellow fibers and cells and a gel-like substance, fibroblasts. So this is the structure of areolar tissue. Moving on. Now talking about the type of connective tissue. There are different types of connective tissue found in the human body. The types are dense connective tissue, also called as irregular connective tissue. Second one is the adipose connective tissue. Third one is the loose connective tissue, also called areolar tissues. Here in this picture we have described the different structure of these kind of tissues. So compact bone is also a connective tissue and blood is also a form of connective tissue. So these are the examples of the connective tissue found in the human body. Let's focus on the types of connective tissues in detail. Connective tissue can be broadly classified into connective tissue proper and special connective tissues. Connective tissue proper consists of loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue, which is further subdivided into dense regular and dense irregular. In this picture you can see the dense regular and dense irregular. It is a subtype of dense connective tissue. Alright. Loose and dense connective tissue are distinguished by the ratio of ground substances to the fibrous tissue. Loose connective tissue has much more ground substance and a relative lack of fibrous tissue, while the reverse is true of dense connective tissue. Dense regular connective tissue is found in structures such as tendons and ligaments and is characterized by the collagen fibers. Alright, the dense irregular connective tissue provides strength in multiple directions by its dense bundles of fibers arranged in all directions. Now talking about the types of fibers found in the connective tissue. First one is the collagen fiber. What is the purpose of this collagen fiber? Collagen fiber binds bones and other tissues to each other. The component of the collagen fiber is alpha polypeptide chain. Where it is located? It is located in the tendon, ligament, skin, cornea, cartilage and other organs. Now talking about the elastic fibers present in the connective tissues. The purpose of elastic fibers in the connective tissue is it allows organs like arteries and lungs to recoil. Alright, it is composed of elastic microfibril and elastin. It is located in the extracellular matrix of the cell. Now talking about the reticular fiber present in the connective tissue. The purpose of reticular fiber in the connective tissue is that it forms a scaffolding for other cells. It is composed of type 3 collagen and is located in the liver, bone marrow and lymphatic organs. Now talking about the functions of connective tissue. Connective tissue has a wide variety of functions that depend on the types of cell and the different classes of fibers involved. Loose and dense irregular connective tissue formed mainly by fibroblasts and collagen fibers have important role in providing a medium for oxygen and nutrients to diffuse from capillaries to cells and carbon dioxide and waste substance to diffuse from cells back into circulation. So the first function is of binding and supporting. The second function of connective tissue is protecting. As it binds the parts of the body, so it works as protective agent. So the major function is the protection of tendons, ligaments, and aponeurosis, and is highly specialized organs like cornea. Next function is insulating. So it works as an insulating agent in the body. The next function of connective tissue is that it helps in storing the reserve fuel for the body. Next function is transporting substances within the body. As the connective tissue binds one organ to the another organ, so it works as transporting substances to the different parts of the body by the connectivity. Alright, moving on. Now talking about epithelial tissue. Epithelium is a type of animal tissue. It is made of densely packed cells that lies on the basement membrane. So it is found on entire exposed surface of the body such as skin. Epithelial tissue are also referred to as epithelium, which refers to the sheet of cells that cover exterior surfaces of the body lines, internal cavities and passageways, and form certain glands. Alright, so this is what the epithelial tissue does. It covers the surface of the skin as a sheet. So the function of epithelial tissue is obviously the covering or lining of various bodily surfaces and cavity and hollow organs. It also creates a barrier that helps protect organs and also has role in absorbing water and nutrients. It is generally present on the skin of the body because it acts as a covering or lining on the surface of the body. It is also found in the glands. Now talking about the types of epithelial tissue, there are mainly three types of epithelial tissues found in the human body. First one is the cuboidal epithelial tissue, second one is the squamous epithelial tissue, and third one is the columnar epithelium tissue. Here you can see the structure of the different types of epithelial tissue found in the human body. The differentiation and classification of the types of epithelial tissue are based on the shape of the cell, the arrangement, and the cell surface. Let's have a look on the deeper side. Alright, so here the table shows you the type of epithelial cell, its shape, and how it looks like. Alright, so the squamous epithelial cell is a flat kind of cell. This is a scale-like cell with central nucleus, with the presence of central nucleus in the cells. Now, the cuboidal epithelial tissue, these cells are equal in height and length. Round central nucleus is present inside the cells, the cuboidal epithelial tissues. Alright, here you can see in this picture that the length and height are same. Thus, the nucleus is round and is centrally located. Now, next one is the columnar epithelial tissue. So, in columnar epithelial tissue, what happens? The height of the cell is more than the length, than the width of the cell. It is elongated towards the base of the cell. The nucleus is placed towards the base of the cell. It is not centrally located, it is located near the base of the cell. So, this is the difference between the shape of the different types of epithelial tissues found in the human body. Now, talking about the functions of epithelial tissue, general functions of the epithelial tissue includes a barrier, that is the protection of tissues. It serves as protecting the body from different radiation, desiccation, and invasion by toxins and pathogens. Second function is secretion. So it helps in the secretion of or release of hormones, sweat, mucus and enzymes. Third function is the absorption. It helps in the intake of substances such as nutrients etc. into the body. Fourth function is excretion. So it helps in removing the waste material or the toxic substances out of the body such as in the form of sweat. Alright, next is the filtration. So it helps in the filtration also such as skin, the cells of skin filtrates the various toxic substance out of the body and filtrates only the important things that are needed for the body. Next function is the diffusion. So it also helps in the cell nourishment. Next is the sensory reception. So it works as a sensory receptor and involves the reaction to the heat, cold or pain etc. So these are the functions of epithelial cells. Now moving on and talking about the muscular tissues. Now talking about the muscular tissue. The muscle tissue is composed of cells that have special ability to shorten or contract in order to produce movement of the body parts. The tissue is highly cellular and is well supplied with blood vessels. The cells of the muscular tissues are long and slender, so they are sometimes called muscle fibers, and these are usually arranged in bundles or layers that are surrounded by connective tissue. Actin and myosin are contractile proteins present in the muscle tissue. So it is also found inside of the heart, digestive organs and blood vessels. In these organs, muscle serves to move substance throughout the body. Alright, now talking about the different types of muscle tissue in the human body. There are three types of muscle tissue that are found in the human body. First one is the cardiac muscular tissue, second one is the smooth muscular tissue and the third one is the skeletal muscular tissue. So it is characterized as these kind of tissues. Now skeletal muscle fibers, talking about the skeletal muscle fiber, these are, as you can see in the picture, these are cylindrical, multinucleated, striated and under voluntary control. Now talking about smooth muscle cells are spindle shaped, as you can see the shape in this picture. They have a single centrally located nucleus and lack striations. They do not have these striated or stripped formation. Now they are involuntary muscles. They do not have the voluntary action or the voluntary control, so they are involuntary muscle. Now talking about the cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle, as you can see in the picture, has branching fibers. They are branched. Alright, they have one nucleus per cell. Striations and intercalated discs are present in the cardiac muscles. Its contraction is not under voluntary control, so it is involuntary. It is basically involuntary. Hope you understand the difference between different types of muscular tissue. The classification of these muscle tissue is based on the shape and structure of the muscle tissues as well as their voluntary control. In this picture, you can understand the difference easily. The skeletal muscle contains fibers. It is striated, tubular and multinucleated. The action is voluntary. It is usually attached to the skeleton. Alright. Now talking about smooth muscle. Smooth muscles also has fibers, but they are non-striated. They are spindle shaped and uninucleated. One nucleus is present in each cell. Their action is involuntary and it is usually present on the covering wall of internal organs. Now talking about the cardiac muscles, It also contains fibers. It is striated, it is branched and uninucleated. One cell, one nucleus is present in each muscle, each tissue. Now the function is involuntary. It is only present on the covering walls of the heart as the name implies. Alright. Now talking about the functions of muscular tissue. The function of muscular tissue is number 1, it helps in the movement. The skeletal muscles that are present on the bones cause the movements of the joints. Second function is the support. The muscles present in the internal organs that are lining the internal organ, it helps in it supports the organ and it helps in the erect position of the organ. Now next function is the protection. As the skeletal muscles are present or the smooth muscles are present, they help in providing the protection to the organ in which they are present. Next function is heat generation. So they produce heat so as the body functions well. Now last function is the blood circulation. The cardiac muscles helps in the circulation of the blood in the heart. Moving on. Now talking about the nervous system, the last type of muscular tissue, the last type of tissue present in the human body, and it is very important type of tissue. Nervous tissue is very complex and there are only two main types of cells in nervous tissue. The actual nerve cell is the nervous. So nervous tissue is found in the brain, spinal cord and nerves. It is responsible for coordinating and controlling many body activity. What does the cells of the nervous tissue do? The type of the nervous tissue cell is neuroglia or the glial cell. So what they do, they convert the stimulus they receive into electrical signal called action potential. To this action potential, a body reacts and then a reaction is formed. Alright, nervous impulses and conduct these action potential to the other neuron, muscles, tissues or glands so that a action reaction is formed. Alright, so what does the nervous tissue do? It stimulates muscle contraction, creating an awareness of the environment and plays a major role in emotions, memory and reasoning. To do all these things, cells in nervous tissue need to be able to communicate with each other by the way of electrical nerve impulses. The cells in nervous tissue that generate and conduct impulses are called neurons. So we will study about neurons now. Now neurons are the types of nervous tissue. Most neurons consist of three basic parts: a cell body, which is this, then the dendrite and axon. Dendrites are these and this is axon. Alright. These cells have these principal parts. The main part of the cell, the part that carries on the general function, is the cell body. An extension or process called an axon carries impulses away from the cell body. Alright, so this is the structure of the nervous tissue neuron. The cell body is similar to other types of cell. It has a nucleus with at least one nucleolus and contains many of the typical cytoplasmic organelles. It lacks centrioles. Alright, now talking about dendrites. Dendrites and axons are cytoplasmic extensions or process that project from the cell body. Here you can see in the picture as well that they are protruding out from the cell body. Now most neurons have multiple dendrites. What is the function of dendrites? Dendrite convert the signals they received into electrical impulses and transmits them inward in the direction of the cell body so that an action reaction is formed in the body. Now talking about axon. Axon is also called as the nerve fiber. It carries nerve impulses away from the cell body so as the nerve impulses can be transmitted to the other cell. A neuron typically has one axon that connects it with other neurons or muscles or gland cells. Now Except this neuron, nervous tissue also includes cells that do not transmit impulses but instead support the activities of the neurons. They are called as the glial cell. Together they are termed as the neuroglia. Alright, so neuroglia form the support structure of the nervous tissue, insulating and protecting neurons. These are the neuroglia. They perform the function of providing support to the nervous tissue, insulating them and protecting neuron. So example of the neuroglia are astrocytes, microglia, oligodendrocytes and ependymal cells. Glial cells glia is also called glial cells or neuroglia. They are non-neuronal cells in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system that do not produce electrical impulse. What they do, the function of the glial cell is to maintain homeostasis and form myelin in the PNS. They also provide protection and support for the neurons. The types of glial cells found in the CNS are these, you can see on your screen, the oligodendrocytes, microglia, ependymal cell, astrocytes and the Schwann cells. Now talking about the tissue membrane. Tissue membrane is a thin layer or sheet of cells that covers the outside of the body. So a membrane is present in the body in the form of a sheet by covering the outside, as in skin, or in heart as pericardium. Alright. And also present in the lining of the movable joints and cavities. The main membrane present in the tissues are mucous membrane, serous membrane, synovial membrane and the cutaneous membrane. Mucous membrane are epithelial membranes generally. They consist of epithelial tissue that is attached to an underlying loose connective tissue. These membranes are sometimes also called as mucosae, line the body cavities that open to the outside. The entire digestive tract is lined with mucous membrane. Other example of the mucous membrane are, they are also located in the respiratory system, excretory and reproductive tracts. So it is a moist lining present in these organs. It is sometimes also referred to as mucosae. It consists of epithelial cells, some of which produce a secretion called a mucus. The four types of membranes are cutaneous membrane, serous membrane, mucous membrane and the synovial membrane. So talking about the cutaneous membrane now. So cutaneous membranes are present in the skin or in the integumentary system. We have the epidermis, which is the outer epithelium tissue, and dermis is the connective tissue. Now talking about the serous membrane, also called as serosa. It lines body cavities that do not open directly to the outside and they cover the organs located in those cavities. It is covered by a thin layer of serous fluid that is secreted by the epithelium. Serous fluid lubricates the membranes and it reduces the friction and abrasion when organs in the thoracic cavity or abdominopelvic cavity move against each other or the cavity wall. Serous membranes have special names given according to their location. For example, the serous membrane that lines the thoracic cavity and covers the lungs is called pleura. Alright, so it is made up of two layers. First is the parietal membrane and a layer to cover an organ called the visceral layer. Now talking about the mucous membrane. These are epithelial membranes, as I told you in earlier that it is made up of epithelial tissues that is attached to an underlying loose connective tissue. They are also called as mucosae. It lines the body cavities that are open to the outside. It is generally present in the digestive tract, which lines the mucus, which is lined with the mucous membrane, and it is also present in the respiratory, excretory and reproductive tract. Now talking about the synovial membranes. These are the connective tissue membranes that line the cavities of the freely movable joints such as shoulder, elbow and knee. Like serous membranes, they line cavities that do not open to the outside. They do not have a layer of epithelium. Synovial membranes secrete synovial fluid into the joint cavity, and this lubricates the cartilage on the ends of the bones so that they can move freely and without friction. It is made up of layer of fine flattened epithelial cells on a layer of delicate connective tissue. Alright, so it secretes a clear, sticky, oily synovial fluid which acts as a lubricant to the joints, which helps in maintaining their stability and removing the friction inside these joints. Now talking about the glandular tissue. Glandular tissue are mixture of both endocrine and exocrine glands. For example, sweat glands, they are covered in the section on the skin. So these type of tissues are called as glandular tissue, which are a mixture of both endocrine and exocrine gland. So this is all about tissue. Hope you liked the session, and this session have benefited you. Thank you for watching and keep studying.